Hello, my name is Ryan Clark. This is LP 4.1 assignment controlling presentation. This is going to be a presentation discussing the different elements of controlling an organization and also the effects of those different types of control mechanisms on the organization. So our agenda for today is we are first going to be speaking about organizational control and defining it and analyzing it. Once we're done with that, we're going to speak a little bit about one of the most common contemporary control systems, the balanced scorecard. Analyze it, describe some of the different elements of it, and give a couple examples. Following that, we are going to discuss the financial and budgetary controls for the balanced scorecard. Then I'm going to reiterate everything I just said, and following that, I will go over the references that I used for this presentation. So the entire reason we're here today is to discuss organizational control. It's defined as the systematic process through which managers regulate organizational activities to meet planned goals and standards of performance. That's a pretty straightforward definition. Every single CEO or corporate leader out there has goals that they want to have completed and met, but they also have standards of performance of how they can get that. So the goals are the end result. The standards of performance are basically the steps of how to get to those goals. But on top of that, with those goals and those standards of performance, they have to be evaluated. They have to have some type of system in place to determine if they really are abiding by those standards of performance and have they met those planned goals. That's why goals must be quantifiable to a certain degree, because if they're not and it's completely subjective, it'll be near impossible to determine if it's been met. But every organization, no matter how big or small, will set control mechanisms in the workplace with the ultimate goal of increasing efficiency and therefore profitability. So it really doesn't matter if you're a mom and pop shop down the street or if you are the CEO of Google, you will set control measures. Now, depending on your corporate culture and your employees, you may have to utilize different types of control programs. Some are more strict and stringent as to, they're very regulated as you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, while others are, here's the goal, here's your resources, this is the time frame, go to town, figure it out. To each their own, every organization works a different way. These goals have to be implemented by someone too. So the team leaders and the immediate supervisors are those guys. CEO is not going to be walking around every single day saying, this is what you must do to meet this goal. No, it's those first line supervisors that are there on site watching the employees and ensuring that they are following the guidelines and those standards of performance. Without them, there is no control program. It's developed by the CEOs or the chief officers, and it's passed down, and these guys are the ones that implement it. Next thing we're going to talk about is exactly why do we need control. So why do we need control? Well, more structured management practices are tightly linked to better performance. Establishments adopting more structured practices for performance monitoring, target setting, and incentives enjoy greater productivity and profitability. Also, higher rates of innovation and faster employment growth. So evaluating performance. We have to set quantifiable goals whenever we are making them. If they're not quantifiable, if they're not something that we can put on a graph or a chart, it's nearly impossible to gauge success. So we put numbers alongside things, whether it's a certain amount of widgets built or the time from order to distribution for a product, things like that, in order to gauge our success. By measuring productivity through those financial metrics, we can also gauge how well our employees are doing, not necessarily the end result. We can see areas of opportunity where we can step in and improve efficiency. You have to evaluate these things. Otherwise, you're not going to know how effective or efficient the processes that you implemented are. Also, really, in the end, decisions must be made based on facts and data. If you don't do that, it's basically guessing. So these evaluation principles of making it quantifiable, making it measurable, they're really just there so we can actually have specific data to bring forth and say this will work if we do this. So after all this talk about different control programs and defining it and getting a good understanding of what it is, We're going to talk about a specific one now. It's called the balanced scorecard model. It involves not just analyzing the end result of the company, their bottom line finances through the quarterly or annual reports. It focuses on the internal processes to include financial, but also customer satisfaction or customer their how they perceive the organization. Internal business processes. How does the organization provide their products and services, and how do they do their daily operations? And learning and growth. So learning and growth is developing your human capital. Making sure that your people are the most qualified and proficient people in the workplace. So starting with the customers. The customers are the people that buy our products. So the customer happiness is the ultimate goal. Their opinion of the organization is what makes the organization profitable. If they think it's a good company and it's a good product, they're going to go out and tell everybody around them, their peers, their friends, everything, and they're going to come in and buy from you too. Now, when we're dealing with the balanced scorecard, we always throw in elements that we're looking for. These are our goals or the categories for our goals. So in this situation, we have time, quality, performance and service, and cost. Those are 4 elements from the customer arm of the balanced scorecard that we want to focus on. Within those 4 things, we are going to set goals. So specifically time. Time is dealing with the time from order to shipment to receipt from the customer. So we want to improve that. So we set a goal. Customers wants a product, they order it, they pay for it. How long does it take? 3 days. That's going to be our goal. And then that's a specific measurable thing that we can go off. Did we meet that 3 days? Did we do better than 3 days? The next thing is quality. Quality control is one of the most important aspects of any industry, not just manufacturing. It could be simply or something as simple as, antivirus protection for a computer. You always have to have quality control. So the customer can be happy with their product in the end. So quantifiable ways of setting quality goals could be something like returns or complaint tickets received by customers. You have set certain amounts that you want to receive or not receive in certain situations, and that's going to be your quantifiable goal. Performance and service is more along customer service. How well or how easy was the process for this customer to purchase your product? Those elements, or the performance and service element, really is a pretty important thing, and it's not just with, face-to-face sales or anything like that. I mean, it could be something like you get onto an online retail store. How easy is it to navigate their website? How easy is it to go through the purchasing phase of the whole thing? So that's very, very important as well. So you can set something up where you don't want a certain amount of complaints regarding this, or doing analytical tests to see how fast you can go from finding a product to putting it in your cart and selling it and purchasing it for the consumer. Cost is something that we could discuss for hours and hours and hours about how to set cost and make it happy for everyone. But really, it just comes down to a bottom line of the organization wants to make a certain amount of money off of a specific sale. So they set 15% on every single item that they sell. They want to make that in profit. Okay, so they develop these programs to make sure that they can meet that cost. Now, making that quantifiable is fairly easy. Is our product at this price? Yes, or if no, in that case, how do we make it either cheaper or more expensive depending on the business plan or the business model? But along with that cost there, you have your internal business factors. It's the next arm we're going to discuss on the balanced scorecard, because the internal business factors are really what leads to that quality and the performance and service, and also specifically the cost. Okay, so we have internal processes such as manufacturing methods or anything along those lines, or internal business processes like the amount of time it takes to fulfill a customer request, and ultimately that affects how consumers perceive the organization. Okay, so improving these things, improving assembly line efficiency, improving, I don't know, a paper system or an electronic system within the organization to speed up time. Um, then along with that, another way to improve the overall image of the organization is it's internal learning and growth. Okay, so human capital. Human capital is a huge subject for a lot of people because it's really one of the most sustainable competitive advantage that an organization can have. People can get these patents and these assembly ideas and all these different things, and they can be duplicated. So that awesome new process that sped up production by 10% you had, give it 6 months, it's going to get duplicated by somebody else, and then there goes your competitive advantage. Now, the people in your organization, that's something you can hold on to that can't be duplicated. Ensuring that they have all the knowledge and training necessary to do their jobs the best they can is improving your quality of human capital. So learning and growth within the organization is huge. So programs like tuition reimbursement and trade skill certifications, they're great examples of organization improving the quality of the employee base. This arm of the balanced scorecard is just as important as any other one because with employee development comes improved internal operations, comes improved customer satisfaction, and improved overall profitability. Now, making learning and growth quantifiable could be something along the lines of we want every single one of our managers to have an MBA. So we're going to pay for them to go to graduate school. You want a specific number. So that's your goal. You want 20 managers to have MBAs by the end of next year. That's a quantifiable goal. Another thing could be we want this many employees certified on this piece of equipment. That's quantifiable. It's easily measured. It's easily told whether it's working or not. Okay. The final aspect is actually one of the more simple ones because it's the financial arm. It's all about money. Are we making enough money? We set certain guideposts. We need this much money or this much shareholder equity at the end of the year so we can pay out our dividends, we can appeal to the public, and we can increase our share price, because that's really what this is all about. It's what is the perception of consumers and shareholders of our organization. We want to improve that as much as we can. That way stock prices go up. That way investors are more willing to help us with new projects, and so on and so on. So that's why the balanced scorecard is so effective, because it takes on all these different elements and it combines it into one system where you can quantifiably analyze every aspect of the business. With the balanced scorecard model, financial and budgetary controls are integrated within the financial arm. These budgets are the goals set by leaders to determine efficiency and provide quantifiable statistics regarding the organization's financial health. So in summary, we discussed organizational control and we defined it and analyzed it. We went into a pretty thorough description of the balanced scorecard. You can get a lot more in depth, but for the sake of this presentation, you get what you get. The final thing we went over within the balanced scorecard was the financial and budgetary controls for the balanced scorecard, discussing how they were actually part of the entire model in the finance arm of the balanced scorecard. This was meant to be a discussion for an assignment, but during this assignment and the research involved, I noticed many correlations between my own management experience and the actual balanced scorecard. I've always thought that you can't just look at the final numbers to determine how effective your business or your organization or your team, whatever it is. You have to look at everything, and you have to find every single aspect of your business, analyze it, find out where you can improve, and go from there. Because if you don't do that, there will be little gaps in your business that will never be noticed, and they will slowly drag you down. Think about the amount of money that can cost you, or the amount of time that can cost you. You have to think of the business as an entire organism that every aspect depends upon each other. If you don't, you will fail. It's simple as that. These guys that and we've seen go to these white-collar prisons are a perfect example of that. They thought about themselves. They thought about making as much money as they possibly could, and they didn't think about anything else.
ended up destroying their business and their lives. So that's what I leave you with. This model is just one of many, but it is very, very effective. You can't run a business without thinking about everything. These are the references I used for this presentation. There is a wealth of knowledge out there regarding the balanced scorecard and different managerial control systems. I recommend reading into them. It's very useful. It's amazing for new leaders specifically to go through these different leadership styles or control mechanisms and tailor what their personal needs are to those styles. Okay, so I don't necessarily agree with the concept of just sticking to one plan. I think that every organization may need a different one, just like no two people are the same, no two organizations are the same. So you must adapt and be able to adapt to new and changing environments. Thank you for your time. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you learned something while you were listening to me rabble on about this stuff. So have a good one. I appreciate your time.